After you watch this video, click on the link that's right below, and that will take you over to practicetheguitar.com, and there you can practice this Dorian scale exercise at 15 different tempos with full notation, tablature, chord charts, and backing tracks, everything you need to help you to improve your playing. Go check that out. So this scale exercise is designed to help you to begin to take one mode and move it through 7 different keys in the same general vicinity on the guitar neck. And what I'm doing here is I'm starting right with the note C, but I'm going to be using the Dorian mode on each one of these, basing this around a C minor 7 chord. So the 4 notes that make that chord are C, E flat, G, and B flat. A C Dorian scale is C, D, E flat, F, G, A natural, B flat, and C. And what that is, we're doing a B flat major scale, all based around C. So I'm using that scale over a C minor 7 chord because C minor 7 is the second chord in the key of B flat major. And this is where Dorian scale comes from. And we're going to move through not only each one of these minor 7 chords, but also each scale pattern that you can play in this sort of same general vicinity on the guitar neck. So I'm using a few different scale type patterns to access the appropriate mode in each one of these positions. So if this is not something that you're familiar with, what I'm referring to is if I go back to a C major scale, just to simplify things, and I say, okay, a C major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. What I'm doing is I'm taking that scale and playing it in 2 octaves in one position. So in other words, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and I'm adding 2 extra notes on the top, a D and an E. So that gives us So what I have there is that C major scale starting and ending on C. I call this pattern 1 because it starts and ends on the first note of the scale. Now if I was to go to the second note of the scale, meaning D, we could also build a scale pattern that's still a C major scale, but just based around the 10th position or the starting note D, which would give you D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, then E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and then adding the 2 extra notes on top, an E and an F. So that gives us So what we have there is what I'll call pattern 2 because it's a C major scale based around the second note of that scale. And of course, usually if you're thinking of this in a modal type fashion, you would usually base that scale around a D minor 7, which is also the second chord in the key of C. Each one of these scale patterns work exactly the same way. So in the key of C, if you had C major, D minor, E, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, and C, those are the 7 chords all based around the 6th string. You have 7 scale patterns that are based around that same starting note in that entire key. So in this lesson, we're going a little bit further, and I'm just saying let's do just the Dorian modes. So we would do, for example, C Dorian, D Dorian, E Dorian, F Dorian, G Dorian, A Dorian, B, and back to C. So it's just climbing through the alphabet in this sort of same general position. That means that we have to change the scale patterns to get the correct notes to give you the Dorian mode in each one of those positions. We're not just taking the same pattern 2 and playing D Dorian, and then E Dorian, and then F Dorian. We're just taking the same pattern and moving it up down the neck. We're not doing that in this lesson. So what you would want to do before you go too far with a lesson like this is make sure that you have a decent understanding of those 7 scale patterns that give you the major scale across the entire neck of the guitar. You can find lessons and all of the scale patterns for exactly that on our site at practicetheguitar.com. Just click below here and that will take you over to the site and you can start working on those. If you want to continue with this, what you would want to do is just begin to learn the theory and connect the theory with the scale patterns for each one of these scales. C minor 7, and we're going to D minor 7, which would give you D Dorian, E Dorian, F Dorian, G Dorian, A Dorian, B, and then back to C. I'm adding to this exercise is a series of hammer-ons and pull-offs just to make it more challenging for the left hand. So you have to do now, of course, you could certainly pick all of these notes just the same. And what I actually recommend you do is practice not only doing hammer-ons and pull-offs or legato through the whole thing, but also picking every single note. We can never do enough of the synchronization practice between the right and left hand. That's such an important thing. In regards to the hammer-ons and pull-offs, what we're trying to do here is, I'm just referring back to this same shape, is I'm just picking the first note out of however many notes there are in the scale. So what we would have here is, for example, C, D, E, and I'm just picking that first note. Then I'm going to the next string, F, G, A, then the next string, B, C, D, next string, E, F, G, the next string, A and B, and then C, D, E. So going up, you can see I'm kind of attacking the notes as I climb on each string. Gives you this. Now when I'm going backwards, we get this pull-off type motion where you have to pick the string and then pull down and away. And then again. And then again. So this takes quite amount of practice to get used to. And that's what this exercise also uses to help you to work on that as well. It's a really awesome practice tool. And what I did is I made 15 backing tracks at 15 different tempos and 15 videos at 15 different tempos for you to practice along with. So as you get comfortable with each one of these scale patterns and each one of the chords, it gives you a chance to play along in time, forces you to get faster at it, forces you to memorize it as well. And there's also the theory aspect. You want to be able to play any one of these Dorian scales in any position, but that means that you need to know what notes build each one of these modes, and you also need to know patterns you can use in each position to find or to be able to play those notes. There's quite an amount of work involved here to get an exercise like this down, to be able to navigate those different keys. And I also really like the aspect of playing the chord, playing the scale, going back to the chord, going to a new chord. This forces you to kind of go back and forth between chords and scales, which is something that I know I don't do enough. It's something that all us guitar players can never do enough. If you think you would enjoy this lesson, just click the link below. That will take you over to the site. You can sign up. You can go over to this page. You can get practicing. Everything's written out. There's a full lesson video there, tablature, notation, like I said, all the backing tracks. All that stuff is there for you to practice with. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you on the site, and I will see you again in the next lesson.